You walk into a room you have never visited. A stranger says something to you for the first time, and suddenly, without any warning, the floor drops out of the present moment. You have been here before, not somewhere like this. Here. This exact room, this exact sentence, this exact angle of light through the window. You know it is impossible, and yet the feeling is absolute, total, certain. For one strange second, the present moment and a memory are pressed flat against each other, and you cannot tell them apart. Then, just as quickly, it lifts. The world snaps back into focus, and you are left blinking, faintly unsettled, trying to describe a sensation that lasted barely a second and left no trace behind. This is déjà vu. The name is French for already seen, and almost everyone has felt it. Around 2 out of every 3 people report it at some point in their lives. It is more common when you are young, and it slowly fades as the years go on. It strikes more often when you're tired or stressed or standing somewhere new and unfamiliar. It is one of the strangest things your mind does to you, and for almost all of human history, nobody had the faintest idea why. Part of the trouble is that déjà vu is almost impossible to study. It arrives unannounced. It lasts only moments. You cannot summon it in a laboratory by asking a person to please feel it now, and you cannot predict when it will ambush someone out in the world. For a long time, it sat outside of science completely, explained away by past lives, by premonitions, by glitches in the fabric of reality, a feeling too slippery to ever catch. But there was one clue. One group of people who experienced déjà vu not by accident, but almost on a schedule. For some people living with a particular kind of epilepsy, a sudden intense wave of déjà vu arrives in the seconds, just before a seizure. It is so consistent that doctors treat it as a warning sign. And this turned out to matter enormously, because a seizure begins in a specific, locatable place in the brain. It handed researchers something they almost never get with déjà vu. A return address. The feeling was coming from deep inside the temporal lobe, in the tight cluster of structures your brain uses to build, store, and recognize memories. Whatever déjà vu actually is, it does not live in the supernatural. It lives in your memory system. So scientists began to ask a much better question. Not what cosmic force is doing this to me, but what is my memory actually doing in that exact moment? One answer comes from a psychologist named Anne Cleary. Her idea is that déjà vu is a case of mistaken familiarity. Your brain stores the shape of a scene, the layout of the furniture, the arrangement of a street, the overall configuration of a space, separately from the details of when and where you saw it. Normally those two things travel together. You recognize your friend's kitchen, and at the same time you remember that it is your friend's kitchen. But every so often, the shape of a brand new place quietly matches the shape of an old one you have completely forgotten. The corridor of a hotel that happens to share the exact proportions of your grandmother's house. Your brain floods with a powerful signal that says, "I know this place," but it cannot find a single concrete memory to explain why. And that mismatch, overwhelming familiarity with no source attached, is the uncanny feeling of déjà vu. Cleary did not just guess at this. She tested it. She built virtual scenes in which a new room secretly shared the precise spatial layout of an earlier one, just dressed up with different furniture and decoration. And reliably, people felt it. They felt that itch of familiarity. They could not say why the new room felt known, because consciously they had never seen it. But its hidden architecture matched something buried in their memory, and some quiet part of the brain noticed. There is a second, older idea as well. Sometimes your brain may simply process the very same moment twice, a fraction of a second apart, one stream arriving just behind the other. By the time the second copy lands, the first has already been filed away, so the present moment shows up pre-stamped as a memory. The now arrives feeling exactly like a then. But the most interesting recent work flips the entire thing on its head. For a long time, everyone assumed déjà vu had to be a malfunction, a memory error, a glitch in the machine. A researcher named Akira O'Connor and his colleagues suspected it might be the opposite. They found a way to trigger déjà vu inside a brain scanner using a clever trick with lists of words designed to manufacture a false sense of familiarity. And when they looked at what the brain was actually doing in that moment, the part lighting up was not the memory centers blindly firing off a false memory. It was the frontal regions of the brain, the areas that handle decision-making and conflict. the parts whose entire job is to monitor your own mind for mistakes. In other words, déjà vu may not be your memory failing at all. It may be your memory being checked. A signal of familiarity bubbles up from below. Some vigilant part of your brain holds it up against the facts, notices that it simply does not add up, that you've never actually been here, and flags the contradiction. The strange doubled feeling of déjà vu is what it feels like to catch that error as it happens. Your brain quietly saying, wait, that is not right, and you, for once, feeling the friction of the correction, and this fits the whole pattern beautifully. Déjà vu peaks in your late teens and your 20s, exactly when your memory and your mental fact-checking are at their sharpest. It fades as you grow older, perhaps because that checking system gradually becomes a little less vigilant. And the people who never get déjà vu at all are not necessarily the ones with the best memories. They may simply be the ones whose brains stop to question themselves a little less often. So the next time it happens, the next time you step into a room and the present moment folds over on top of itself, and you would swear on everything you own that you have stood in this exact spot before, try to notice what is really going on underneath. It is not a window into a past life. It is not a crack in reality. It is the feeling of your own mind doing something quietly extraordinary, reaching into its enormous library, pulling out a flicker of false recognition, holding it up to the light, and catching it before it can fool you. Déjà vu is not your memory breaking down. It is your memory standing guard. For one disorienting second, you get to feel a thing that almost always happens in total silence, far below your awareness. You get to feel your own brain, fact-checking your life,